pleased to be joined by the author of Israelophobia and Never Again, How the West Betrayed the Jews and Itself. Also a prolific columnist, especially in the Telegraph, and in my view, arguably one of our most powerful Jewish voices, pro-Israel voices in this country. Jake Wallis Simons, welcome.
Good evening. Thank you.
Now, first of all, there's several issues I'd like to talk to you about. But first of all, this is the question on the table is the Islamification of Birmingham. Tomorrow night, there is planned a massive pro-Palestine march to coincide with Aston Villa's Europa League tie game against Maccabi Tel Aviv. Now, as we know, controversially, fans of Maccabi Tel Aviv, have been banned from attending this match in a decision that many feel is kind of anti-Semitic, anti-Israel, anti-Jewish. Would they have done the same if it was Palestine United? I doubt it somehow. But this match goes ahead, fans not allowed there, but there'll be this, they think there may be 300,000 people at this march tomorrow night. 700 coppers will be monitoring it, so it's quite an event. Now, last night I spoke to a guy called Ahmed Yakoob. He's a lawyer, and he is one of the organisers. I'll play you some film of him as well. Well, first of all, Jake, I've got a few bits of film to play you, but your reaction to what's going to happen tomorrow night, because I asked this guy Ahmed Yakoob, I said, isn't this just some sort of explosion of Jew hatred, of anti-Semitism? This is against Tel Aviv playing this game at all, because they say no Israeli teams must be, all sports must be allowed to compete in anything. And I said, well, what has Israel done wrong then? Well, they've committed genocide. I said, no, they haven't. No, they haven't. That is there's a legal definition of genocide which Israel has not reached. So you cannot just say, because you don't like Israel, that Israeli teams have to be banned from all over the world. Your thoughts about tomorrow night?
It's really worrying, and it's a sign of a problem that's been brewing for generations, obviously linked to the pace of immigration into this country, which has not allowed for assimilation. What we've ended up with is Birmingham and other towns, villages, cities around this country effectively harbouring a culture within a culture, whole communities of people who might have been born in Britain but don't really show any allegiance to Britain or any affinity for our values, our way of life, our traditions or our customs. Indeed, they show an animosity towards it, a hatred towards it. And you've got to ask yourself, what they've won, haven't they? They've got the Tel Aviv fans banned from Birmingham. That's a victory to them. Why the mass marches? Why? Why are they taking to the streets? Why the need for so many police officers to deal with this unrest? And the reason is that it's a show of strength on the streets. These people, of course, they hate Israel and they hate the Jews, but they also hate Britain and British values. I note that whenever you see a march against anti-Semitism or a march in favour of Israel, when there are some in Britain, you always have the British flag flying proudly alongside the Israeli flag, because Jews and our supporters are deeply patriotic for this country. My Jewish grandfather fought at D-Day, as did many other Jews of his generation. Whereas when you see marches that are supposedly about Palestine, you don't see a single Union flag. All you see is hatred and animosity towards the statue of Winston Churchill, towards the Cenotaph in London, towards the Union flag. They really hate Western liberal values and everything that we stand for, and I'm afraid that this is a problem that's only going to get worse and more violent as time goes by.
Indeed. Now, last night I spoke to this guy, Ahmed Yakoob. He's a lawyer. You may remember him. For a brief time, he represented the Manchester cop beaters. He drives a Lamborghini. Anyway, his viewpoint was that Israel should be banned, or Israeli sports teams, in fact, the Eurovision Song Contest, representatives of Israel should be banned from everything all over the world, basically because he doesn't like Israel. No, they got the right to protest, I suppose. But to have a look at him, this is him talking about, he said to me, Muslims have a sacred belief that they are not allowed to be anti-Semitic. I said, well, do you think that arguably those Muslims, those Hamas Muslims who invaded Israel on October the 7th a couple of years ago and massacred 1,200 innocent Jewish people, do you think that arguably they might be breaking this sacred tenet that Muslims cannot be anti-Semitic? Have a listen to him. You just told me that it's sacred to Muslims that they cannot be anti-Semitic. What would you describe those Hamas Muslims who invaded...
What would you describe as 1948?
Well, no. Why are you going to answer my question? Are you going to answer my question?
All those people...
Well, they're not exactly being...
Those people from their homes...
Well, the peace and harmony that you talk about wasn't exactly in evidence, was it? On October the 7th.
1948, there was no evidence of people being displaced from their homes.
Do you want to go back further? 1848, 1748?
There's no evidence of that.
Yeah, so do you defend October the 7th then?
So are you telling me there's no evidence?
Do you defend October the... Tell me about October the 7th. What are your views on it?
What do you want me to tell you about October
Ahmed,
7th?
what are your views on October the 7th? What do you think?
October 7th was a terrible attack.
Okay. And didn't really demonstrate that sacred tenet that you told me about Muslims who are not allowed to be anti-Semitic. Wasn't kind of a celebration of Muslims not being anti-Semitic, was it? What happened on October the 7th? The massacre of 1,200 innocent Israelis.
Kevin, let me tell you something. If you live in a house and you let in a stranger, and that stranger then takes over your house, kills your whole family, but leaves your son.
Okay, so you're saying that you're saying October the 7th was justified. You're saying October the 7th was justified then?
No, I'm just explaining a simple.
Yeah, no, you're trying to justify October the 7th.
I didn't mention October 7th.
Yeah, he didn't like to talk about October the 7th, did he? I mean, what do you make of that kind of line of argument there, Jake?
Well, he's obviously not very bright, is he? That's the first thing that comes across. Secondly, his understanding of history is pretty patchy and selective. But third, I think, and most worryingly, it was very striking at how you had to drag an opinion out of him about October the 7th. I mean, you and I, and all right-thinking people, have no hesitation about condemning out of hand the atrocities that were committed on October the 7th, the murders, the rapes, the mutilations, the necrophilia, the kidnap. That was all just beyond imagination, and we should be able to condemn those out of hand. And if you can't, you have to wonder why. And he seemed to be engaged in some attempt to justify October the 7th by saying some sort of convoluted metaphor about Israel being the root of all evil for having stolen a house or something. But, you know, I can't look into his heart and divine whether or not he is an anti-Semite, but throughout history, the way that anti-Semites work is that they characterize Jews as evil. Jews as the source of all evil in the world. Jews were the Christ killers in the Middle Ages, the source of all evil because they killed Christ. They were an inferior race in the 20th century, the source of all malevolence, therefore had to be exterminated. What do you do with a Jew who is the source of all evil? The only thing you can do is ban him, marginalize him, murder him, torture him. That's all you can do. And so the anti-Semitism begins with characterizing Jews as evil. And I'm afraid that we see that once again in the form of Israel being characterized as evil, as demonic, as the source of all evil in the world, totally out of all proportion to the reality, built on lies. And that justifies this kind of hatred and bigotry leveled at Israel these days. It's just the newest form of the oldest hatred, I'm afraid.
And the local MP at Aston Villa, for the constituency that includes Aston Villa, it's called Perry Barr. His name's Ayub Khan. He's one of these independent MPs who basically is a member for Gaza in Westminster. But he you know, suddenly takes this great interest in football hooliganism. So did Jeremy Corbyn. They got together this petition saying these, you know, troublesome Tel Aviv fans must not be allowed into our area, as if it's some kind of Muslim enclave. And Jeremy Corbyn taking an interest in football hooliganism for the first time in his long career. And there's something sort of disconcerting about their belief, certainly Mr. Khan's beliefs, apparent belief, that this is an area not for Jewish people. The West Midlands Police kind of enshrining that and just saying, well, we can't guarantee safety. I think the West Midlands Police should have made it their extreme priority to make sure Israeli fans could come to this game, because that's about freedom, that's about liberty of football fans to watch their team play. If you can't let people do that, then you are infringing their basic human rights. Now, have a look at this quick, in terms of this march tomorrow night, Jake. Have a look at, here's a couple of, few of the people who will be participating.
6th of November, it's game over for Maccabi Tel Aviv and Israel. Protesters are coming from all over the UK peacefully. We're going to protest with our families and let people know the frustration that we have. Israel should not be in FIFA. There's over 30 organizations that are involved, and the numbers are going to be huge.
Absolutely. My message to those right-wing extremists and the barbaric Israeli supporters who are supporting Maccabi Tel Aviv, that the city of Birmingham and moreover Aston is the home of lions.
Lions, and we will not just remain silent when genocidal complicits come in and play football in our city. Remember that. I urge all the youth to be peaceful and not to cover their faces on that day. We want to send a clear message of peace and justice.
Birmingham is united against Israel. Okay, game over for Israel on 6th of November.
Remember that.
Game over.
Game over.
Thing is, Jake, you know, these people seem to believe that their beliefs are, you know, all powerful. Israel hasn't broken any international laws. It is not guilty legally of genocide. And therefore, these people believe Israel should be banned from everything, essentially because they don't like Israel. That cannot be allowed.
Yeah, it's chilling. It's chilling. I mean, they put a good spin on it, saying that we're only peaceful and we're not going to cause any trouble, to kind of put people off the scent. But what they're really saying is that we own the streets. And Britain needs to ask itself, the police needs to ask themselves, government needs to ask itself, who owns our streets? Who runs our police? Who rules in this country? Who sets the laws? And who decides who abides by those laws? As far as I'm concerned, it's perfectly legal for Israeli fans to come and watch a football match, regardless of what people in the local area may think or how racist they may be, how anti-Semitic they may be. Britain is not a racist and anti-Semitic country, but there are pockets of racism and anti-Semitism in certain parts of our country that's been imported, I'm afraid. Those attitudes have been imported from the Middle East and are taking root in our country. You know, Israel is not, as you say, engaging in a genocide. Israel is a liberal democracy fighting to defend itself against a jihadi enemy. That is the reality. And we need to ask ourselves if we are comfortable with parts of our city, parts of our country becoming a no-go zone for Jews, for Israelis, on the say-so of some people who wish to take to the streets peacefully or otherwise.
Exactly right. Now, we're going to go to break in just a second, but I've got to put this interesting story to you. Today, the children from a primary school in Sutton Coldfield, which is very near Birmingham, basically part of the Birmingham conurbation, if you like. Mere Green Primary School, it's called. They enjoyed a lovely school outing, a day trip to the Science Museum. The parents and carers of all these kids were sent this letter by the school to the Science Museum and the Royal Albert Hall they're going to today. They went today. I hope they had a nice time. It said, "Dear parents, carers, we're very excited for our trip to London this Wednesday. Please read these quick reminders to help the day run smoothly." It then goes into the times and all that. Then it says, what to bring. Small backpack with packed lunch, drinks and light snacks. No nuts, no coconut. That bit's fair enough. I think that's to do with allergies. And then, check it out, no nuts, no coconut or pork in lunches, please. And then so on and so forth. No pork. Now, to which I would say, why would all children be banned from taking pork in their packed lunches. Now, we got in touch with Mere Green Primary School and said, this is all very strange. Can you explain it? This was their answer. A message shared with parents and carers on a private platform earlier this week incorrectly stated that packed lunches should not contain pork. This was simply an unfortunate human error. At Mere Green Primary School and all schools within the Arthur Terry Learning Partnership, whatever the hell that is, all meat products, including pork, are among the wide range of foods available as part of our daily school menu and can also be bought on school trips and visits. This was a genuine error. They're very keen to stress they made a mistake here. This was a genuine error, and we would like to apologise for any confusion or upset that this may have caused to the families of our children. Our schools are diverse, inclusive and committed to supporting the needs of all children and families. That's from the communications manager at Mere Green Primary School. But, I think we know what happened there. This is what happens. If we are worried, as I think many of us are, about Islamification, this kind of human error, ordering all kids not to include pork in their packed lunches, is going to slip in more and more, isn't it?
Yes, it's amazing how often the same sort of mistake seems to be occurring these days. I think we need to be quite careful about drawing a distinction because obviously, Orthodox Jews don't eat pork. Various other, Hindus don't eat beef, some of them. Yeah. Different religious minorities
I agree with that, yeah.
Have their own observances and lifestyles and traditions. But the thing is that most of these minorities are patriotic towards Britain and live peacefully, abiding by the law and integrating. Now, that is the case with some Muslims, of course, and I think we need to recognise that you can be Muslim and British without any contradiction, and, Muslim soldiers fought and died for our country in both of the world wars.
Of course, absolutely.
But I think we also need to recognise at the same time that there is a dominant part of the Muslim community which is influenced by the Muslim Brotherhood and other extremist groups, which don't seek simply to coexist and assimilate. They seek to take over. They seek to exert their force gradually by increments over the generations, as is their ideology, and gradually subject Britain to Sharia over time, to Islamification. Now, this is not me saying this. The government, 10 years ago, in 2015, commissioned a report into the Muslim Brotherhood by two very senior civil servants and security experts, which came to this exact conclusion and named the Muslim Brotherhood in Britain as a threat to our national security and social cohesion. Absolutely nothing was done about it over those last 10 years. The Tories tried to ban it, then gave up, didn't do it. Nothing's been done. As a result, we see this organised attempt to gradually dominate our country, not by jihad and violence immediately, by incremental political manoeuvring, by the show of force on the streets, resorting to jihad if it's necessary as a last resort at some point. And that's what we're being subjected to. It is not about decent Muslims who wish to integrate. This is about an Islamist force seeking to exert its strength and take over our country over the generations. And we need to wise up to this before it's too late.
Yeah, there's something going on, and you're quite right. When I talked about that school and the banning pork, well, that human error about banning pork, you're right. It could. We talked about this in the office. It could refer to Jewish people, but we're talking about the Birmingham area. I think we know where we're coming from, and my guess, I'm speculating. My guess is it's a Muslim member of staff who thinks that pork should be banned for everyone and didn't quite realise, but. It's just something that's quite eye-catching and something that I think is going on more and more, particularly in the Birmingham area, where essentially tomorrow night as many as 300,000 pro-Palestinian marchers will effectively say that Aston Villa and the Perry Bar area of Birmingham is a no-go area for Jewish people, and that it's quite right they'll be banned, and that, to my mind, is not acceptable.